We're going deep into the spiritual meanings drawn from, well, interpretations of Surah Yasin. It's often called the heart of the Quran.
That's exactly right. And our source material today, it's really special. We're looking at excerpts from Sheikh Muhammad Metwali al-Sha'rawi, a truly renowned scholar. His interpretations are just, well, they're known for being incredibly unique and deeply reflective. They resonate spiritually in a powerful way.
Yeah, absolutely. So our mission for this deep dive, what we're trying to do is pull out the most vital nuggets of knowledge. We're talking about the nature of the divine itself, our own relationship with the Creator, those profound signs you find embedded everywhere in creation.
The ones that whisper spiritual truths, yeah.
Exactly. And also that ultimate journey accountability, the return to God. We want to uncover how these spiritual meanings aren't just abstract ideas, but they offer a kind of shortcut, a way to get truly well-informed.
Providing those real aha moments, that practical wisdom that sticks with you long after you've listened. The hope is it allows you, the listener, to see your world through a kind of fresh, maybe divinely illuminated lens.
Okay, sounds good. Let's unpack this. Maybe start by laying down a really crucial spiritual cornerstone. We're calling this part 1, the singular divine unpacking the essence of God.
Good starting point.
So when we talk about God's uniqueness, there's this fundamental distinction in Arabic that, well, it carries immense spiritual weight. It's Al-Wahid versus Al-Ahad. And this isn't just like a linguistic thing for scholars, is it? It feels core to understanding true monotheism, Tawhid.
Oh, absolutely. You've hit on something critical there. It's not just semantics. So Al-Wahid, when we use that term, it refers to a unity, yes, but one that can be made up of multiple parts coming together.
Okay. Like what?
Well, think about, say, a football team. It's one team, right?
Yeah.
But it's definitely composed of many players, coaches, maybe specific strategies.
Yeah, different components making the whole.
Exactly. Or think of a building. You'd call it one structure, but its unity comes from putting together countless bricks, mortar, beams, windows, plumbing, electrical systems, all assembled to form that single entity. Its oneness is based on composition.
So it implies a kind of unity that has components. Or maybe its existence depends on assembling different elements, a composite unity. That makes sense.
Precisely. But then you have Al-Ahad, and that's where the absolute radical singularity comes in. It signifies indivisibility, like its purest form.
Indivisible? How so?
It means there are 0 constituent parts, no components at all that make it up. It wasn't assembled from anything, and you can't break it down into anything smaller. And importantly, it implies a uniqueness so profound, so absolute, that there's just nothing else remotely like it. Not in its essence, its being, its attributes, utterly singular, unique in every conceivable way, no counterpart, no equal.
Wow. That's a much deeper level of one. Not just numerically one, but fundamentally unique and indivisible.
Exactly.
And this absolute non-composite uniqueness, Al-Ahad, that's the concept applied to God in these interpretations. This really is crucial for understanding Tawhid, isn't it? It seems to shatter some common, maybe simpler ideas about divine unity.
It absolutely does. It's the very heart of Tawhid. Applying Al-Ahad to God, it means he is utterly unique, not composite, and has absolutely no counterpart or equal in his very being or his attributes.
And no partner.
No partners, no components, no entity sharing even a tiny fraction of his absolute divinity. Nothing. He's completely distinct from all creation. That sets him apart from everything else that exists. It really grounds the concept of ultimate oneness, taking it beyond any idea of division or comparison, or even asking how he exists. And for you, as a spiritual seeker, grasping Al-Ahad means recognizing a God who is entirely self-sufficient, utterly transcendent, and completely unlike anything we can possibly imagine or compare him to. It's this radical understanding that frees the human heart, frees it from seeking divinity in created things and directs all devotion to the one truly unique source.
That brings so much clarity to the distinction. It's not just one like counting, but one in this unparalleled, unapproachable sense.
Okay.
So having established that profound cornerstone of God's absolute singularity, let's peel back the layers now on how that singular essence manifests in the act of creation itself, particularly through this evocative term, Fatarani.
Oh, Fatarani. Yes, that's another deeply profound word. It carries immense spiritual weight. It means, essentially, he who created me without any prior example.
Without prior example.
Yes. So this isn't just about creating something generally. It specifically highlights God's absolute originality and his self-sufficiency in the act of creation. Think about it. A human artist, they need clay or paint or maybe inspiration from the world around them, right? A builder needs blueprints, materials.
Yeah, they work with pre-existing things or ideas.
Exactly. But God, according to this concept, didn't rely on any pre-existing model or template or blueprint. There was literally nothing to draw inspiration from because everything originates from him. He brings existence into being from absolute non-existence.
So he didn't just rearrange stuff that was already there. He originated existence itself, the ultimate source, calling creation out of nothing. That really shifts the perspective on what creation even means.
Precisely. It reinforces his unique position as the ultimate reference point for everything that is. And this absolute originality, it's coupled with his continuous, unchallenged dominion over everything. The sources illustrate this using examples of God's power to change and transform things.
Like what?
Like his ability to, say, change humans in their place or even wipe out their eyesight. Now, this isn't just about physical transformation in a literal sense necessarily. It points to God's continuous, unchallenged control over all aspects of existence. That includes us, human beings, our physical forms, our senses, our capabilities, even our reality itself.
It's a reminder then that our very being, our bodies, our senses, everything we think of as ours is ultimately.
Let alone exactly, entirely at his command. And reflecting on that evokes both, a profound sense of humility, but also a deep sense of awe. It's a constant spiritual reminder. Everything we perceive as ours is ultimately a gift held in trust from the Creator.
That's a powerful insight. Okay, so let's connect these dots then. Understanding God as Al-Ahad, this absolute unique oneness, and as Fatarani, the originator without precedent. Why does this really matter to us, to you, listening? In our day-to-day spiritual lives, what are the practical takeaways from these, really profound spiritual truths?
Well, recognizing God's absolute uniqueness, Al-Ahad, and his self-sufficiency as the originator, Fatarani. This is really the bedrock, the absolute foundation of a spiritual life. It frames the human relationship with the divine in the purest possible way. It gets rid of any confusion, any false dependencies.
That's right.
Because if he is Al-Ahad, utterly unique and needing nothing, it removes any notion that you need intermediaries to reach him. There's no ladder to climb. You connect directly to the source, the originator of everything. It's a simplicity that just cuts through all the noise, cuts through complex theological debates and offers this direct pathway.
It sounds like it really simplifies things, making that spiritual relationship incredibly direct and, pure.
It absolutely does. And this understanding, it naturally deepens your awe, your reverence for the Creator. It fosters this genuine sense of gratitude, not just for the gifts in life, but for the sheer fact of existence itself, for being brought into existence without any prior example.
Gratitude for just being.
Yes. Imagine the profound gratitude for the simple gift of being, of consciousness, knowing it all sprang from an utterly unique, self-sufficient Creator who didn't need to create but chose to. It becomes this constant source of wonder, a spiritual foundation that really transforms how you view every single breath, every moment. And it inspires a deep trust, doesn't it? Knowing that the one who brought you into being from nothing is fully capable of sustaining you, guiding you, and ultimately bringing you back to him.
What a powerful foundation to build upon. Okay, so from the singular divine, the source of all being, let's now shift our gaze outwards to creation itself. In part 2, the universe as a sacred text, signs of divine wisdom. The Quran, it often uses the natural world as a way to communicate, doesn't it? And one of the most striking images is the Earth's resurrection, the Earth appearing dead and then coming back to life. This isn't just like a science observation, is it?
Not at all. It's presented far more profoundly than that. The imagery of the dead Earth, barren, cracked, seemingly lifeless, being brought back to vibrant life with the blessing of rain. This is presented not just as a physical cycle, but as a profound sign. An ayah.
Ayah, which means more than just a verse, right?
Exactly. In Arabic, an ayah is multi-layered. It's not just a verse in the Quran. It's also a sign, a miracle, a proof, a marvel, something that points directly to the divine and this reviving of the earth. It's a recurring miracle we witness constantly, season after season. You see the land looking utterly desolate and then maybe just a little rain and suddenly it bursts forth. Greenery, life, abundance.
And the sources really emphasize how this natural cycle serves as a powerful argument for our resurrection, for human resurrection. It's a direct analogy laid out right there in nature.
It is. The spiritual logic is beautifully simple, yet incredibly profound. If God, in his infinite power, can revive barren land, bringing it back to full vitality after it seemed totally dead, then surely he can revive our bodies after death. This visible, powerful demonstration happening all the time in nature effectively dismantles any argument against the possibility of resurrection. For the reflective heart, it makes it an undeniable truth. But the significance, it goes even deeper than just proving resurrection or providing basic needs. The revival of the earth, it provides not only essential sustenance, grains, fruits, things we need to survive, but also incredible aesthetic beauty, as the sources put it, for the eye, beauty of scenery and softness.
That's fascinating. So it's not just about function, about survival. It's also about providing for our enjoyment, our delight. It suggests a creator who isn't merely utilitarian, just giving the bare minimum.
Exactly. It points to a creator who was profoundly benevolent, wanting his creation to experience joy, beauty, pleasure. It suggests God's bounty extends far beyond mere survival needs, encompassing pleasure, aesthetic appreciation, even spiritual delight.
So looking at a beautiful landscape becomes an act of recognizing divine generosity.
Precisely. It encourages us to look at, say, a vibrant field of flowers, not just as potential food source or decoration, but as a living masterpiece, a testament to divine artistry and generosity. And this should naturally deepen our gratitude, not just for the physical food, but for the beauty that nourishes our souls and constantly reminds us of the generosity of the divine. It's like a continuous invitation to reflect, to see the spiritual source behind all that is good and beautiful in the world.
That really transforms how you look at the world. Okay, speaking of intricate design, let's explore another one of these miracles of creation, the idea of pears, fruits, and flowing waters. This concept of Azwaj, or pairs, seems deeply embedded in the Quranic view of existence.
Yes, the principle of Azwaj, or pairs, is absolutely fundamental. It's woven into the very fabric of existence, observable everywhere you look in creation. From plants, requiring pollination between male and female parts, to humans, to animals.
And the sources say even to things they do not know. What does that imply?
Well, the interpretation here suggests this principle extends even to realms beyond human comprehension at the time the Quran was revealed. Think about modern science. Subatomic particles often come in pairs, like electrons and positrons or quarks with different charges. Fundamental forces acting in balance. The universe seems built on this kind of duality, not necessarily as opposition, but as complementarity, things working together.
Interesting. And what's the underlying purpose of this pervasive pairing? It seems linked to reproduction, propagation, keeping things going.
Exactly. The primary purpose seems to be ensuring the continuation of life, the endless flow of blessings from the Creator. Reproduction, propagation, ensuring life in all its diverse forms continues. It highlights God's incredibly intricate design for sustained existence. It's a continuous cycle of creation and recreation, where things that might seem opposite actually work together in perfect balance to create a dynamic, stable whole.
And within that grand design, the sources point to specific examples of bounty from the earth. Dates, grapes.
Yes, dates, grapes, various other fruits that emerge from the soil, the bursting forth of springs. These aren't presented as random occurrences or just fortunate accidents of nature. They are clearly framed as divinely provided resources, meticulously arranged for humanity's benefit and sustenance.
So they serve as constant, tangible reminders of God's provision, His attention to our needs. What's the deeper spiritual meaning we should take from these physical blessings?
Well, these physical blessings, they act as constant, tangible reminders of God's sustained attention and His overwhelming generosity. They're like little spiritual nudges, encouraging us to reflect, to look beyond the gift to the giver. When you taste a sweet fig or drink cool water from a spring, it's not just a physical sensation, it's an opportunity. An opportunity to consciously connect that delight, that nourishment with the divine hand that provided it.
Turning the experience into reflection.
Precisely. This fosters a deep, continuous sense of gratitude, not just as an intellectual idea, but as a heartfelt response to the sheer generosity that permeates creation. It really transforms everyday experiences, eating, drinking, enjoying nature, into moments of spiritual awareness, allowing us to see God's constant presence and care in the world all around us.
That's a beautiful way to integrate spirituality into the everyday. Okay, now let's shift our gaze upwards to the celestial clockwork, the sun, the moon, day and night. We often think of these as opposites, right? Light versus dark, activity versus rest.
We do, but the Quran presents them quite differently. Not as opposing forces, but as complementary systems. Each is in constant, perfect motion, fulfilling a specific role within a much larger integrated design. The sun, it has its appointed course, moving with incredible precision. The moon has its stages, waxing and waning, eventually appearing, as the description goes, like an ancient date stalk, that thin, curved crescent before beginning its cycle anew. This incredible cosmic order points directly to a meticulous, wise, and immensely powerful creator.
It really is a divine design when you think about it. The sequence of day and night alone. It provides the framework for rest and activity, which is absolutely essential for life on Earth, and their precise interaction governs climates, ecosystems, our own biological rhythms. It demonstrates purposeful arrangement, not just random chance or chaotic forces bumping into each other.
And the challenge for us is to move beyond just a superficial glance at these phenomena. They aren't merely opposites or independent entities floating around. They are deeply integrated components of a grand, interconnected design. And this highlights God's profound wisdom and his consistent, unwavering power. The Quran makes this explicit, stating that the sun must not overtake the moon, nor does the night outstrip the day. All float in an orbit.
That precision is incredible.
It really is. It reinforces the perfection, the immutability of God's cosmic laws. There's this inherent order ensuring everything functions exactly as intended, without collision, without disruption. It maintains a perfect cosmic balance that ultimately sustains all life. And for us, reflecting on this precision can inspire a deep trust in the divine order that governs our own lives too, even when, maybe especially when, we don't fully perceive it.
It's a profound testament to divine precision and wisdom. Okay, and speaking of divine perfection, let's unpack the term Subhan. It's often translated as glory be to God, but what does Subhan truly mean in a deeper spiritual sense?
Subhan it's a really rich Arabic term. It goes far beyond a simple glory be. It signifies an absolute declaration of God's transcendence. Transcendence from any imperfection, any deficiency, any fault, any limitation, any attribute that could possibly detract from his absolute perfection.
So it's declaring him pure, perfect.
Pure, perfect, flawless, completely free from any comparison to creation or any fault you could possibly imagine. When we say SubhanAllah, we are actively affirming his absolute purity, his inherent flawlessness, and his utter distinction from anything related to created beings. It's an act of recognizing and declaring God's inherent perfection, a perfection that exists independently of his creation.
And the sources mention that all that is in the heavens and the earth glorifies God. This sounds like a universal declaration, an inherent testimony coming from existence itself.
Yes, precisely that. The idea is that the entire universe, just by existing, by functioning according to its perfect order, its incredible precision, its inherent beauty, it testifies to God's perfection. It's like an unspoken inherent glorification is happening constantly.
So everything is saying SubhanAllah just by being what it is.
In a sense, yes. A tree glorifies God by being a perfect tree, fulfilling its purpose. A star glorifies God by following its appointed course flawlessly. And importantly, Subhana also acknowledges that God's attributes of perfection are pre-existent. They existed before creation. His perfection is. It's inherent, timeless, not something he gained or something dependent on his actions or his creations.
Wow.
And understanding this elevates our own spiritual journey, doesn't it? It inspires us to strive for a deeper recognition of this absolute perfection in our own lives and our perception of the divine, allowing us to purify our own understanding of God.
That adds so much depth to what can seem like a simple phrase. Okay, that brings us nicely into part 3, humanity's covenant and the path of guidance. So if everything in the universe glorifies God just through its existence, it seems logical that humanity, with our unique consciousness and intellect, would have some kind of innate connection, right? A covenant with the divine. Why do we worship? What's the spiritual root of this human inclination?
This leads us to a really profound concept known as Fitrah. Fitrah is the innate disposition, the natural inclination that God instilled within every human being at the time of creation. It's like an original pre-existent covenant, a kind of spiritual hardwiring.
How admiring.
Yeah, the idea is we're born with an inherent inclination to recognize our Creator, to worship Him, to seek truth, justice, beauty, purpose, things that go beyond just the material world. So the Quran, in this view, isn't introducing something entirely new or alien to our nature. It serves as a reminder of this inherent truth.
So it's awakening something already within us.
Exactly. It's articulating that spiritual yearning that resonates deep down in every human heart, regardless of their background or upbringing. This fitrah is why universally you see humans searching for meaning, grappling with morality, wondering about what lies beyond this life. It's built in.
So it's about remembering a truth that's already etched into our very being. not just learning something totally new. And the logic of worship then just flows naturally from that, doesn't it? Like the sources pose the question, why should I not worship the one who created me?
Absolutely. The logic combined with profound gratitude and this innate disposition, they all point towards worship. It becomes the most natural, the most intelligent, the most heartfelt response to a creator who brought us into existence from nothing and continuously sustains us every single moment. And it's crucial to remember, it's not about God needing our worship. He is self-sufficient, El-Ahad.
Right.
It's about us needing to worship him for our own spiritual well-being, for the proper ordering of our lives, for expressing that profound gratitude that arises from recognizing him as the source. And true worship, ibadah, it's directly connected to obedience. It's not just performing rituals like prayer or fasting. Those are vital parts.
It's broader than that.
Much broader. True ibadah is about aligning your entire life with the divine will. Living in accordance with the guidance provided by the Creator in all aspects of life, your ethics, your relationships, your work, your inner state. It's a holistic submission that ultimately brings inner peace and a deep sense of purpose.
That makes perfect sense. A comprehensive, holistic submission that touches every part of life.
Oh.
Okay, and this path of obedience, this life aligned with divine will, it ultimately leads us towards accountability, doesn't it? Let's dive into the vivid imagery the sources use for Judgment Day, particularly the sealing of mouths and the testimony of our own limbs.
Yes, this imagery is incredibly striking and, frankly, profoundly unsettling for those who might have rejected the truth. The Quran describes it. Today, we will seal over their mouths, and their hands will speak to us, and their feet will testify about what they used to earn.
Wow. Hands speaking, feet testifying.
Exactly. It highlights a direct, undeniable accountability, a spiritual reality where deception is impossible. On that day, you can't argue your case with words, because your own body parts, the very instruments you use to perform your actions, will bear witness. They will speak the undeniable truth about what you did, what you earned. It's not about what you claim you did, but what your hands and feet confirm.
And the sources make a subtle but really crucial distinction about the nature of these earnings or gains, especially when it comes to sin. It's not just about the act itself.
No, it's deeper than just the action. The sources explain the subtle but profound difference between merely doing something wrong, perhaps out of weakness or compulsion, and actively gaining from it, even in sin.
What does that mean, gaining from sin?
Well, let's take lying, for example. Someone might lie out of fear or maybe desperation, a moment of weakness. But what if you lie and then you feel a kind of thrill, a sense of cleverness, a feeling that you've achieved something, a worldly gain through that deceit, that rejoicing in the sin, that internal acceptance or embrace of the transgression that transforms it. It goes from being a slip-up, a moment of weakness, to a deliberate act of choosing falsehood. And that carries a much heavier spiritual weight.
It's like the difference between stumbling accidentally and deliberately choosing to walk towards a cliff.
That's a good way to put it. And this ties directly into the sincerity of repentance. The sources draw a sharp contrast between genuine repentance, which means turning back to God soon after doing wrong, feeling real remorse, and having a sincere intention to change, versus delayed repentance.
That's delayed repentance.
That's the kind of repentance that only happens when death seems imminent or when punishment is right there staring you in the face. That kind, born out of fear rather than sincere remorse and love for God, is generally considered not accepted. It emphasizes the spiritual importance of heartfelt, timely change. A genuine turning back to the divine, driven by sincerity, not just 11th hour desperation.
That's a really crucial insight for anyone seeking genuine spiritual growth and wanting to understand divine mercy properly. Okay, now let's shift to the role of prophethood in guiding humanity. Why did God send human messengers? Why not angels, since angels are such powerful spiritual beings?
That's a common question, and the sources address it directly, offering some profound spiritual wisdom. The explanation given is essentially twofold. First, if angels were sent down to earth in their true, majestic, angelic forms, humans would likely be completely overwhelmed. Terrified, perhaps. Unable to interact normally, learn from them, or relate to them.
Right, the sheer power and difference would be too much.
Exactly. Alternatively, if the angels were to take on human form so that they could interact effectively with us, well, then they would just appear human. And the very same question will arise, why didn't God send a human messenger we can relate to? So sending human messengers is presented as the most suitable approach.
Makes sense. Relatable.
Yes, human messengers can empathize with human struggles. They face similar temptations and challenges. They can demonstrate practically how the divine message can be lived out within human society. They serve as relatable role models. This ensures the message is accessible, understandable, and ultimately actionable for all of humanity.
So it's about accessibility and relatability, ensuring the message can actually take root in human life and resonate with their experiences.
Okay, and what about the Quran itself? The central message delivered by the final prophet, Muhammad, peace be upon him. The sources emphasize its unique nature, saying it's beyond poetry. Yes, that's a key point. The sources stress that the Quran is not merely poetry, even though undeniably it possesses incredible eloquence, a profound rhythm, a captivating linguistic beauty that has, frankly, baffled linguists and literary scholars for centuries.
But its miracle isn't just the language.
No, its truly miraculous nature lies deeper. It's in its profound meaning, its unmatched wisdom, its legislative perfection, its prophecies, its scientific insights ahead of their time, and perhaps most importantly, its transformative effect on the hearts and minds of those who listen sincerely. Even those who don't understand Arabic often feel a powerful impact from its recitation. It's described uniquely as both recited Quran, which points to its oral tradition and the power inherent in its sound, and written kitab, signifying its meticulously preserved textual form.
A complete spiritual system, a guiding light. So it's much more than just beautiful verses. It's presented as a living source of guidance, a kikr, a reminder, as you said, of that original covenant, that fitrah, within us.
Exactly. The Quran is presented as a clear methodology for life, a comprehensive spiritual roadmap that distinguishes right from wrong, guiding humanity towards ultimate well-being, both in this life and in the hereafter. And what's truly remarkable, unparalleled really, is how its authenticity and purity have been preserved.
How so?
Through a unique dual method. It's preserved in the hearts through mass memorization by countless individuals across every generation, starting from the Prophet's companions right down to today. Millions have memorized it perfectly. And it's preserved in the lines through its meticulously copied and cross-checked written form. This dual preservation, oral and written, working together, is unique in religious history and seen as a guarantee of its exact transmission over centuries. It's considered a living testament to divine care for this final message.
That's truly incredible when you think about it. The scale of memorization alone. Okay, and finally, in this section on guidance, let's talk about Bismillah, the practice of starting any endeavor in the name of God. What's the profound spiritual significance behind this seemingly simple phrase? How does it transform our daily actions?
Starting any action, literally anything from, eating a meal to starting a major project with Bismillah in the name of God is a profoundly transformative spiritual act. It's not just saying the words, it's a conscious declaration. You're seeking divine assistance, and you're consciously choosing to rely entirely on God's attributes, his power, his wisdom, his mercy.
So it's an acknowledgement of our limitation.
Absolutely. It's an acknowledgement that our own human power is inherently limited, and that all true strength, all success, all blessing ultimately comes only from God. It's like saying, I'm stepping forward to do this, but I'm not relying on my own feeble strength or intelligence. I'm relying on the boundless strength, the perfect wisdom, the infinite mercy of God.
That fosters humility, but also empowerment.
Exactly. It fosters deep humility, reminding us of our dependence, but simultaneously it empowers us. Because we're not acting alone. We're acting with the requested support of the Almighty. It gives confidence, knowing your efforts are rooted in and hopefully guided by a higher power.
So it connects every action, no matter how small, to a greater purpose and power. Infuses it with spiritual meaning.
It absolutely does. When you say Bismillah, you are consciously invoking God's beautiful attributes and connecting your action to them. Attributes like Al-Aziz, the Almighty, Al-Hakim, the All-Wise, Ar-Rahman, the most compassionate, Ar-Rahim, the most merciful. These divine qualities are then hoped to infuse the action, blessing it, guiding it towards good outcome.
So starting a task Bismillah means doing it with God's power, wisdom, mercy.
That's the intention, yes. Seeking those attributes to guide your hand, your mind, your heart in whatever you're undertaking. And what's really remarkable here, reflecting God's vast mercy, is that even someone who doesn't consciously believe, a disbeliever, still receives sustenance and blessings in this world through God's attribute of Ar-Rahman, his universal, all-encompassing compassion that extends to all of creation, believer and non-believer alike.
So even they benefit from his general mercy.
Yes. So theoretically, even they could invoke Bismillah for their worldly actions, perhaps recognizing, even implicitly, that the ultimate provision, the ultimate enabling force comes from a source beyond themselves, even if they don't fully acknowledge or understand that source. It points to a universal divine sustenance that transcends our specific belief systems.
Okay, moving now into our final section, part 4. Challenges, consequences, and the ultimate return. This spiritual journey of guidance and accountability, it's clearly not without its challenges. And the sources speak very vividly about the consequences of persistent disbelief, often depicted using metaphors of, like, sealing hearts and spiritual blindness.
Yes. The Quran uses powerful, almost physical imagery to describe this state. God placing shackles around their necks, making them unable to look up or around easily, and putting a barrier before them and a barrier behind them, so we have covered them and they do not see.
That sounds quite deterministic, like God forces this blindness.
Well, the interpretation here emphasizes that this isn't typically seen as an arbitrary punishment inflicted out of nowhere. Rather, it's depicted as a consequence, a direct result of the individual's persistent, willful rejection of clear truth, clear signs. Their own choices, their own insistence on denial leads to a kind of spiritual hardening, a self-imposed blindness that prevents them from perceiving the light of guidance even when it's right there. It's like they build walls around their own heart, layer by layer, until eventually the light just can't penetrate anymore.
So it's more like their persistent denial creates their own spiritual prison, trapping them inside. And those barriers before them and behind them, the sources give them specific spiritual meanings, don't they?
They do, yes. The barrier before them is interpreted as signifying their spiritual blindness to the consequences that await them in the hereafter. They refuse to look ahead, to seriously consider the inevitable return to God and the accounting for their deeds. Their future reality is veiled from them by their own denial.
And the barrier behind them.
That signifies their forgetting or willfully ignoring the lessons of the past. The history of previous nations or individuals who followed similar paths of disbelief and defiance and the consequences they faced. They refused to learn from history's warnings. So they end up trapped in this narrow present moment of denial, unable to benefit from the wisdom of the past or heed the clear warnings about the future.
It's a complete spiritual isolation, self-imposed.
And the ultimate, most poignant expression of the outcome of this state is captured in that lament, Ya Hasra, which translates roughly as, oh, the regret, or alas for the sorrow. It's described as this profound, heart-wrenching sigh of despair that arises when the reality hits them, the sorrow for the squandered chances, for the incredible opportunity to believe and live a life of purpose that was willfully ignored and missed. It's the spiritual agony of realizing what could have been, what was lost.
That's a powerful and sobering thought, that depth of regret. Okay, and this whole spiritual journey, whether one accepts guidance or rejects it, ultimately leads to the inevitable return, the resurrection. The sources make it absolutely clear. There's no escaping this transition from this life to the next.
That's right. It's presented as a universal, inescapable truth. The sources state clearly, they will not return, meaning back to this worldly life after death. Death is not an end, it's a doorway, a transition. Instead, every single soul will be brought before us. Death is portrayed as a fixed appointment for every soul, a spiritual passage leading directly to accountability before the Creator.
And the sources describe the resurrection event itself very vividly, the blowing of the trumpet.
Yes, the momentous, awe-inspiring event of the trumpet blast. It's depicted as this cosmic signal that initiates the resurrection, and instantly people will rise from their graves, hurrying to their Lord. It's an image of undeniable reality, immense urgency, and complete inevitability as all of humanity from all times rises simultaneously to face their Creator.
And on that monumental day of judgment, those who spent their lives in disbelief will have this sudden, terrifying recognition of the spiritual reality they always denied.
Yes. The sources describe them exclaiming in shock and despair, "Woe to us! Who has raised us from our sleeping place?" Sleeping place referring to their graves, or perhaps their state of spiritual heedlessness. It's the sudden, unavoidable shock of undeniable reality after potentially a lifetime spent in spiritual slumber, denial, or distraction. It's the ultimate awakening to a truth they consciously chose to ignore.
And for those who persisted in disbelief, the sources say something stark about their deeds, even the good ones they might have done.
Yes, this is another sobering point. Even seemingly good actions performed in this world, acts of charity, kindness, contributing to society, if they lack the foundational spiritual component of sincere faith in God and seeking His pleasure, they may hold no weight in the scales of the hereafter. The sources use the powerful image, and we will approach what they have done of deeds and make them as scattered dust.
Scattered dust, like they just vanish.
Essentially, yes. Without that sincere faith, that correct intention, actions, no matter how good they appear outwardly, can lose their eternal value. They become like dust particles caught in a sunbeam, may be visible for a moment, but ultimately without substance, scattered by the wind, carrying no weight when it truly matters in the hereafter. Intention and faith are paramount.
So the journey's end, the culmination of it all, is either paradise or punishment. A just outcome based on one's beliefs, intentions, and actions, reflecting God's perfect justice.
Indeed. That's the ultimate destination presented. For the sincere believer, upon arrival in the hereafter, after a life striving in faith and obedience, the greeting is described as simple and joyful. Enter paradise. This suggests an immediate welcoming entry into eternal bliss, profound spiritual contentment, peace, and closeness to God, reflecting His immense love, mercy, and reward for their faith.
And for those who rejected faith.
For those who denied and persisted in that rejection, the outcome is described as a just retribution, a state where the consequences in the hereafter directly mirror the nature of their actions and intentions in this life. The sources give specific examples.
Like the one about hoarding wealth.
Exactly. The example of the greedy or stingy person who obsessively hoarded wealth in this world, refusing to acknowledge God's rights in it or share it with the poor and needy. In the hereafter, it's described that their hoarded gold and silver will be heated intensely and then pressed against their foreheads, their sides, and their backs.
Why those specific body parts?
The interpretation is that this vividly mirrors their behavior in life. The forehead, perhaps representing their pride and refusal to bow to God's commands regarding wealth. The sides and back, representing how they physically turned away from the poor who approached them for help. It's a striking image of divine justice, where the spiritual consequences are not arbitrary, but are intrinsically linked to and reflective of their actions and inner state during their life.
It's a very direct, almost poetic justice, a consequence flowing directly from their spiritual choices and actions.
Precisely. And it serves to reiterate the core theme. This entire cosmic drama, this human journey from the moment of creation through life's tests and choices, right up to the final judgment, it's all rooted in God's infinite wisdom and His perfect justice. Every single action, every hidden intention, every spiritual choice we make carries profound weight and will be meticulously accounted for. It underscores the immense spiritual significance of every single moment we have in this life. There's a profound purpose behind it, all our creation, our trials, our choices, and our ultimate inevitable return to Him.
What a truly comprehensive journey we've taken through these deep spiritual insights from Surah Yasin, guided by the reflections of Sheikh Al-Sha'rawi. So to bring this all back home, for you listening, these deep spiritual meanings, they aren't just, ancient texts or abstract theological ideas collecting dust on a shelf.
Not at all.
They are living truths. Truths that can genuinely shape our understanding of our own existence, our purpose here, and our ultimate destiny. In a world that's often just overloaded with information, noise, and maybe spiritual confusion, these insights offer a profound clarity, a grounding.
They really do. And maybe as a final thought, something provocative for you to take away and ponder. Think back to that universal law of pairs, of Azwaj, that principle of complementarity we discussed earlier. It's evident everywhere in creation, right?
Like the sun and moon, day and night.
Exactly. They aren't really opposing forces in conflict. They're interdependent, complementary elements working together in a perfect, harmonious system designed by the Creator. So the provocation is this. Consider how things you perceive as conflicts or opposites in your own life might actually be complementary elements, parts of a larger, perhaps divinely ordained design you haven't fully grasped yet.
That's interesting. So what seemingly opposing forces in your life, maybe it's a difficult challenge you're facing, or a really complex relationship dynamic, or even aspects of your own personality that seem to contradict each other? What if you tried viewing them not as purely conflicting, but as potentially complementary? Could that unlock some new harmony, some deeper insight?
Could that tension you feel, that struggle, actually be a necessary dynamic? a part of a larger, wiser spiritual design unfolding. It's something worth reflecting on.
Definitely.
We really encourage you to just ponder this profound interconnectedness, see how it might reflect the intricate wisdom of the Creator playing out in all things, including the complexities of your own life. You might just find hidden harmony, unexpected spiritual purpose in what you currently perceive only as dissonance or difficulty. This kind of reflection, it can genuinely transform your understanding of your own journey, leading perhaps to a deeper level of acceptance, trust, and ultimately peace.
That's a beautiful and deeply insightful note to end on. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today. Until next time, keep pondering these ideas, keep learning, and keep diving deep into the spiritual truth that are all around us, waiting to be uncovered.
Explore our kids' books on Amazon. Don't forget to subscribe for more content. Thank you for your support.